following video is brought to you by BSEN, Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final.
I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Colin, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that. You don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again to say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in '08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Still banner 18 in the rafters. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
Welcome back to Dynasty Proud, episode 6, brought to you by Boston Sports Entertainment Network. My name is Jason. He's Alex. Alex, what's going on?
Just vibing out to the intro beat, just get ready to start the show, talk about all the Celtics happenings.
Whole minute and 24 seconds of it. So we have some big news that dropped today in the NBA, specifically with the Milwaukee Bucks. They have fired their head coach, Adrian Griffin, kind of surprisingly. But if you're a Bucks fan, you probably saw it coming with Giannis and that team probably butting heads with the head coach. Do you have any opening thoughts on that firing?
I'm surprised they did it this early. Like, obviously, he wasn't the big marquee name to get signed there. It seemed like that was almost kind of a Giannis hiring back before they were able to acquire Dame, when Giannis was kind of making hints that, like, this may not be a long-term home for him. I feel like they were just doing everything to appease Giannis, and that was his guy. So they went with him. But things have just kind of been falling apart over there behind the scenes. Obviously, they still have the second best record in the East. I mean, with the talent that they have, they should at least be at that level. But having Stotts, leave almost immediately, the assistant coach of the Bucks, and then obviously they've had a great record, pretty good record, but the defense has been lackluster. It seems like there are some problems internally, and it looks like he was the fall man for it. So it was definitely surprising to see it at this point in the season, especially given their standing in the conference. What do you think about it?
So for me, the firing obviously was very unexpected. I think Adrian Griffin, obviously when you have the second best record in the East, you kind of like, you think your job is safe, but obviously there's stuff going on in that building that, no one out in the public knows. Clearly Giannis and Dame, preferably Giannis, had an issue with him. So I think in all, Giannis is like, it's either him or me. And, obviously the organization is not going to, get rid of Giannis. So it's the head coach that takes the fall. We got news today, though, that Doc Rivers could be a possible candidate to fill his shoes. Obviously, we've known Doc Rivers from being the head coach here and then also with Philly. That doesn't scare me at all. Doc, if you want to go to Milwaukee, be my guest. We've dealt with you in the past. We'll deal with you again. Do you have any thoughts on Doc? Does he scare you or whatnot?
So it's funny. I was looking at Nathan, who's kind of the greenie of the Bucks, like his page today, and a lot of the comments were, well, Adrian Griffin didn't make any in-game adjustments. I'm like, well, wait till you get a hold of Doc Rivers if you want to talk about not making in-game adjustments. I mean, historically, he does have the resume of an all-time great coach. But if you actually watch him in playoff series, nobody's blown more 3-2 series leads than Doc Rivers. Nobody's blown more 3-1 series leads than Doc Rivers. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about the talent that's on the floor. I mean, Giannis, Dame, these are veterans. Giannis has won a title. A lot of this core is the same from when they won the title. So if it's really the head coach that needs to motivate those guys, then there's a much bigger problem going on than who's coaching that team. If they want to go for Doc Rivers, great. They might as well just go back to Budenholzer at this point. And as I mentioned on my Twitter, I'm like, Belichick's available. He's, he's a coach. He might get some defense out of them. But I mean, what did they really expect Adrian Griffin to do with a backcourt of Damian Lillard and Pat Connaughton? Like, are those guys going to become all-world defenders? So, I mean, I get it. When you're the head coach, you get the praise, you get the fall. He's not the one out there playing, and I don't really know what's going on, in that locker room. But I mean, go ahead with Doc Rivers. He doesn't strike any fear into my heart as a Celtics fan. I don't think that's preventing anything, and I think. As we'll touch on later with the Heat move today, I think all things are signaling towards another Celtics Heat Eastern Conference Finals rematch.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know. The Bucks right now, they're 30-13, and you go and fire a head coach. Obviously, it's more than the record. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. But, as we're going to get into the Heat, Terry Rozier is traded to the Heat for Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick. Obviously, Lowry was only attached to the first-round pick because they got to get rid of him. Lowry is, as you know, you're down in Miami, and you kind of see what's going on. You probably have more reaction with the Heat fans. He does absolutely nothing. He used to be a three-point sniper. Now you're lucky if you get 2 threes a night from him. It's kind of gotten that bad. So I'll go first for my reaction on this trade. I think this is a desperate move by the Heat. Obviously, they probably want to move Lowry. So if Rozier was like the best get they could get for him with attaching a first-round pick, I think, and all in all, it's not a horrid move for the Heat. But it also screams desperate to me. Terry will probably come back and haunt us in the playoffs. He'll probably drop 30 on us one game. I won't be surprised if that happens. But I don't know. The move doesn't move the needle for me. He's a good player. He'll complement Jimmy Butler pretty well, but it doesn't, like, you're still another 2-1 big piece away from even me getting like worried that the Heat, like, they lost Strus. I don't know. I don't, maybe this is a move to replace Gabe Vincent, who they lost. But what are your reactions on this trade?
Well, as far as comparing to Gabe Vincent, this Terry Rozier doesn't run an offense at all. I mean, he's kind of like a pressure cooker. Like, he can heat up, he can go off, hit a few threes in a row. If his shot is falling, he's a really good offensive player. But when it's not, as we'll reference Heat fans to look at that are calling him a big time playoff performer. Go look at the highlight clip from Game 7 of the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals. We went 0 of 10 from 3 and 2 of 14 from the field, and that probably almost single-handedly cost us that game, just the bricks he was throwing up there. So I don't want to hate on him. I like him as a player. They needed to do something. He's definitely an upgrade over Lowry for sure. Lowry, I mean, at this point of his career, you said 2 threes a game. He's more like 2 a week. His purpose, besides being a representation for all the BBLs in Miami, is to take charges, to kind of, I guess, be a locker room guy, but on the floor, he's not really providing you much. Like, I was at Game 6 of the conference finals, and literally every fan around me, every time he touched the ball, would be like, get him out of here, get him out of here. Like, so he'd become a liability because he can't really guard anybody. He's not making shots anymore. So Terry Rozier is an upgrade over that because he's a very capable offensive player. But I don't think, at least from when I've watched him and when he was with the Celtics, he doesn't always play in the flow of the offense. A lot of times, it's almost kind of like a Marcus Smart, at least how he used to be. Like, if Terry Rozier hits 2 threes in a row, that third one's a heat check coming from 30 feet. It doesn't matter how much time's in the clock, who's open. So, I mean, look, the Heat needed another piece, another talent. Hats off to them. They went out and got one because everything with the Heat is always they're interested in. I mean, this wasn't a big piece. They got a piece. I agree with you. They definitely need something else. But, I mean, if you tell me this Heat roster is going to be in the conference finals, making another run for it, I wouldn't argue with you on that. They certainly could be. It's going to really come down to what do you get out of Jimmy in the playoffs? Does he have the legs? Is he going to be able to just turn into playoff Jimmy again or not? But, I mean, I like the move in a vacuum for them.
I think, Jimmy Butler's obviously going to have to show big time in the playoffs. He can't just, like he's doing right now, sleepwalk through the regular season, and he wakes up in the playoffs and, he's a, Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals. So that's honestly what he does most seasons. But, Terry will give him a spark. He'll give them points. If he's starting or off the bench, he'll be a good scorer for them. They need that guy. And I think whether they do it by the trade deadline or not, it remains to be seen. But, I don't know. It's a meh move for me. Because I've watched Terry recently, even like last night, he hasn't been playing well. He's at the beginning of the season, he was like an assist, 20, 22 points a game. And now he's kind of fallen off. So, maybe he goes back to that with Miami. Yeah, go.
My thoughts on the Heat is, if you look at the Celtics roster versus the Heat roster, I mean, obviously there's very good players. The Celtics have more talent, but the Heat don't have a lot of two-way players. Outside of Jimmy and Bam, everyone's one-dimensional. It's like you have guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Terry Rozier that are, high-level or sort of high-level offensive players, but they don't add much defensively. And then you look at like a Haywood Highsmith, that's like a really good defensive player, but he's not really giving you anything offensively. So I think like Jaime Jaquez would probably be like their third best two-way player. And in the series, that's what the Heat have, done so well against us is they have these guys that are playing both ends of the ball. They're playing their zone defense against us and trapping us as well as being able to score. So while their offensive ceiling is higher, I feel like their defensive ceiling is a little bit lower.
So another question that I want to bring up, or a statement real quick, is I wonder if the Jaquez groin injury is worse than they thought, and they needed to bring in Terry like ASAP, and they need to move Kyle Lowry instantly with a first-round pick because he might be out for more than I believe the 3 weeks that they're saying right now. Because he suffered I don't know what grade it was, but he suffered a pretty bad groin injury. So maybe they think he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And they think Terry can come in instantly and give them more productive minutes and scoring, whereas, you get the void from Jaime Jaquez. Any more thoughts on that?
No, I mean, they just have to get through it for now. I mean, especially since Jimmy Butler's not playoff Jimmy during the regular season. He's going to play one game. He's going to sit the next game. So they're going to need other people to fill the void, to fill the offensive void, especially to be able to score points and win games. So, I mean, I like the move in a nutshell for them. We'll see if they have anything else they're planning on doing. But I like the move for them. I don't think it moves the needle that much either way. But, I mean, for me, I think it makes them a little bit more formidable.
I think also he's a dog too, right? He's going to dive on the floor. He's going to give him that defensive, mindset. And, that's good for the Heat team that, like you mentioned, they have a bunch of one-dimensional players. So him being a scorer and also a defensive guy will help a ton. Now moving to Denver versus Boston, the game that came down to the final shot by Tatum. But get to the game itself. Pretty good game. Murray, 35, 3 of 7 from 3-point. Joker 34, 2 of 4. And then Tatum 22, 1 of 8. Not his best shooting night. And then Porzingis was their second best shooter, going 21 points, 3 of 5 from 3. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he shot 3 3-pointers in the first and then completely didn't hit another one for the rest of the game. Jaylen Brown had 13 points. I believe also went 1 of 9 or 1 of 8 from shooting, 3-point line. He didn't show up, but the game itself was a pretty good game. This final score was 104-102 Denver. My reaction is, can we draw up a little bit of a better play than Tatum shooting a fadeaway off one leg? I think we can draw up a better play than that. And also KP with Joker, you got to move Joker out of the paint. You got to get him to the other side of the court to give Tatum as much room as possible if he can't get that shot up to be able to drive to the basket. But Joe will learn, obviously. You make the mistakes now, get to the playoffs, you learn. Because this is going to be probably, if the Celtics and Denver make it that far, it's going to be a finals rematch. Or not rematch, a finals matchup. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the game?
So I think these are these are two high-level teams. I think this definitely could be the NBA Finals. And if I were to bet on it now, which given my history, I probably shouldn't, but I think this could definitely be the NBA Finals preview. As far as the way they were defending Joker, a lot of times you almost either force him to be a scorer or force him to be a passer. And I think he's almost more lethal being a passer because he's always going to find the open player. Like if you watched at one point, they double teamed him and he's not even looking and he just kind of threw it behind him. The guy was cutting to the basket. He has eyes in the back of his head, but they were forcing him to be a scorer, which he's still as deadly as anybody. So it's pick your poison with Joker. But Murray was killing us too. The two of them, when you look at what that tandem was doing versus what the Jays were doing that night, they were just overmatched. I think the technical on JT was BS. I don't know what they wanted to do, just fall on his back right there. The guy hit him as he's going up and dunking the ball. So yeah, maybe to the untrained eye, it looks like he was just trying to showboat and pull up on the rim, but he actually almost had to do that to keep from falling. If you remember Minnesota a few years back when Jalen dunked it, slipped on the rim, and you almost thought he was going to paralyze himself when he came down.
Yeah.
So, but as far as late game execution, I've seen that as great as they are, for most of the game, when it comes to the end of the game, it's just so much back to isolation basketball, whether it's Jalen, whether it's Tatum, and they don't always get the best shot for the team. They're looking for the best shot for themselves. And I get it, you're stars, and that's what stars do at the end, but it's the shot quality. The last shot by Tatum, it's not that he can't make that shot. We've seen him make that shot all the time, but is that the best shot? He had a few seconds. He could have caught the ball, spun, and drove to the hoop, gotten fouled or gotten a layup. If you're going to take a contested shot, at least have it be a 3. At least have it be a shot that's going to win us the game. But you have so many scorers out there. This isn't the Tatum team of 2 years ago where he's out there with Romeo Langford and Tristan Thompson, whose career may be over at this point. But I mean, there's Jalen, there's Kristaps, there's DY, there's Drew. I mean, in some situations, Al may be in there. There's so many capable scorers in the team. It doesn't need to be Tatum with a contested fall away every single time, especially if that's a tying shot. So I didn't like the shot quality. I always believe in going to your stars, but it's the look, and I didn't like the look. And overall, the Jays did not have a great game. I mean, both teams down the stretch weren't scoring. It was like
Mhm.
almost like an old school type of game. They're just kind of letting them play. They're letting the fouls go. So some of it was nice to see, but I would have liked to have come out of there with a win. But I mean, there's nothing about that game that makes me think that we can't beat that team in a 7-game series.
No, obviously. I mean, we only lost by 2 points, and Jaylen Brown had probably one of his worst nights in the last month. Right? He shot 13 points. He wasn't on, and if he's on, game's much different. But going back to Joker being able to guard him, obviously, if you're going to put Kristaps Porzingis on Joker, how you're going to counter that is KP has to play, out of the 3-point line, so Joker has to come out and guard him because you have to respect the three, and that opens up, the paint, for Tatum to be able to drive. And on that play, KP was, I believe he's at the free throw line with Joker. So Joker's right there. If Tatum tries to drive, it's now you're going against two, and then you're not probably getting a quality shot. So at that point right there, that was probably the only shot he got. But I think Joe could have drew up the play a lot better to open up Tatum. But I don't know. I'm not mad about the game, but I think the late game execution for me is probably the thing that sticks out the most, because if you go on Twitter, if you go on, sports radio, whatnot, you got guys like Michael Felger or people on Twitter going, again, can we trust Joe Mazzulla in late game situations to be able to put this team over the top and bring them to where they need to go? Right now, I'm on the fence, because we've seen it a couple of times where, whether it's a timeout issue with Joe or being able to draw up plays, the plays just like they're not there right now. And I'm kind of hoping with like the new staff that they brought in, the Sam Cassells of the world, can sort of like help Joe out and being able to draw better plays to put Tatum in a better spot to win the game. The ball should always be in Tatum's hands at the end of the game. He is your best player. He's getting paid. I know Jaylen Brown's getting paid the most right now, but he will be getting paid the most money on the team by 20 to 40 million. He needs to take the shot. He's the best player. I know we got players on the outside like Horford, KP, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday that can also make the shot, but he needs to be the one that can make the shot. But you got to put him in a better spot to make a quality shot versus a, off one leg fadeaway over KCP to try to win it. Yes, he can make that shot, but I need a better shot quality at the end of the game. And I think, they'll work on it and they'll get better on it. But, it was a good game overall.
Yeah, we haven't had a coach really drawing up ATOs that are high quality since Brad was down on the bench. So it's not always that. At the end of the day, one possession here or there. It'd be nice if the coach could draw something up that puts us in the best chance to succeed. But at the end of the day, you're the most talented team in the NBA. It's up to them. And these guys aren't rookies. They're veterans. They're guys that have been through it. It's up to them to make the plays to win the game. So maybe Joe should lean more on Sam Cassell or Charles Lee to help in that area if that's not a strong suit of his. But I agree. I would like Tatum taking the shot, most of the time, unless somebody else is open, which we're very capable, those players, of hitting those shots, but get a better shot selection, better shot quality. Because in the playoffs, not all these games aren't going to be blowouts. There's going to be a lot of close games, especially once you get to the second round. And, when games are tight down the stretch, I don't have to worry about, Tatum's going to take a shot over 3 defenders on a fadeaway when he doesn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I forgot about Charles Lee. I forgot he was on the staff. Yeah, he could also help. But I just think
still had him.
Oh, well, I mean, right now I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if you can poach assistant coaches midway through the season, but I damn know they probably wish they still had him. But I get what you're saying about like the rookie stuff. Like Tatum's not a rookie. This team is not full of rookies by any means, so they should be able to figure out their own shot and be where they need to be. But I think in crunch time like that, that's where a head coach really can help. Experienced head coach to try to at least draw up the play originally to put them in the best position to succeed. And if they have to improvise, if the play isn't, if they're playing a different style of defense, and that they don't see originally coming out of the huddle or the timeout, then then you improvise and you do the whatever, the step back three, the infamous Tatum step back three or whatnot, the fadeaway. But come playoffs, this is going to show its head more than the regular season. And I'd rather have it happen now than in the playoffs, obviously, because if it happens in the playoffs, the sports media is going to rip him even more than what happened against Denver. But I need to see that the plays aren't just Tatum isolation at the end of the game constantly. So I mean, that's just, I don't know. That's kind of just where I am. I'm kind of like a stickler for that because I always feel like the Celtics, like where they struggle the most and how they lose games is 4 minutes and under. That's where they end up losing games. They could play the best three quarters in the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Once it gets 4 minutes and under, it's normally Tatum time and he takes unnecessary shots and all this. I don't know. That's probably a different conversation for another day, but it kind of ties into the shot selection, the play at the end of the Denver game. You have any more thoughts on that game?
No, I mean, it's the only thought I'll have is, the Celtics, they lose so rarely. They've only lost back-to-back games once this season. That was in early November to Minnesota and Philly. That it's almost like a celebration on Twitter when they do lose, and it means they're clearly frauds. So losing by 2 points to the defending champs, to lose our first game all season at home, to lose a 20-0 record, means that we're clearly frauds. So I guess that's what it is. But I mean, it's encouraging in the way that it's like it was a battle. It was, I would love to see 7 games of this. And especially at the end, it should teach him because, like, you're not going to, I mean, Tatum should know by now he's never getting that whistle. Like, in a close game, he's not getting the whistle. And on the other end, it's going to be ticky-tacky. So to learn how to play through these things, play through the refs, I mean, I'd like to see that shot go in next time, but not that much to take away from him. It was a good game. Sucks we lost, but, on to the next one.
No, I agree. I just think I'm so hard on them because when I see losses like that, even when Brown and Tatum don't have their best nights and they only lose by 2, obviously that is it's so much of a positive sign because I think a couple of years ago, even last year, they probably lose that game probably by 15. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when I see stuff like that happen, it's more or less like if you see a team like that, like if you do that against Miami or the Bucks or whatnot, teams are just going to capitalize on that. And I just don't want that to happen. I see flashbacks and visions, and I don't know. It sucks. But moving on, they bounced back in a huge way versus the Rockets. I didn't see much of that game, but they pretty much cooked the Rockets from what I saw for highlights. It's tough to take much away from a game where they pretty much waxed the Rockets. The Rockets, I believe, didn't have Jabari Smith, and they also didn't have Fred VanVleet. So you can't really take much away from that game. You have any thoughts on that game?
I mean, the Rockets are on a back-to-back, and they've actually been on a back-to-back both times they've seen us. But, I mean, I felt like Tatum and Brown, a lot of them were just going through the motions. I felt like Dallas was their bigger game that they cared about more, so they just figured, we have more talent. Yeah, they didn't have Drew Holiday or Al Horford playing that game, but it's like we have more than enough talent to beat these guys. They don't belong in the gym with us. Yeah. So that was kind of the way they played for most of the game. And, I mean, the game was never really in doubt. Houston kind of tried to hang around at the end. But I kind of like it how they're Jaylen Brown. The rumor was always he wasn't a big Ime guy. And at the end, there's like 40 seconds left. The game is well in hand. And he's on a breakaway and he goes and throws down, I believe it was like a cocked back dunk or a windmill dunk. And then the next time he has another breakaway, there's like 30 seconds left. You could dribble it out, but he's 1 assist shy of the triple-double. And he gives it, I want to say it was to Brissett for a dunk. To get that triple-double, so almost kind of like to stick it to Ime and the Rockets, but it was, it's a little bit of swagger too. So, it was like you said, there wasn't a ton to take away from it. It's one of those like business type games. Like you show up, you take care of business, win, on to the next one, which was Dallas, which we can get into right now. I'll lead off that. With Dallas, other than the very beginning, where they just weren't hitting shots. Like once the shots started falling, they just looked like such a superior team to Dallas. And Dallas, watching that team, like they were just cooking Luka every single time they were finding that matchup, whether it was Tatum, whether it was Brown, and then Brown dropped him at one point. But the problem with Dallas is like you look at their back line. I mean, offensively, Luka and Kyrie are like all-time special. Like that backcourt, like the way just a bunch of professional bucket getters. But defensively, they are just like atrocious. They can't guard anybody. It's one thing for Kyrie, who is my least favorite professional athlete, but Kyrie, at least it's like he's 6 feet tall. Like he can try his hardest. He's not going to be a great defender. But Luka, he has the size to be a defender. He just has no like hair on that end of the floor. He's saving himself completely for the offensive side. I mean, he's all-world special offensively, but I like how sometimes when you attack matchups, it can take you out of the flow of the offense. Like the Golden State game, when Steph Curry had 4 fouls, they went every single play. Instead of going with the flow of the offense, they were like, okay, we have to attack Steph. And it just kind of changed the game for them. This time it was like they did the same thing, but they were scoring against Luka. No matter who Luka was covering, they would set picks and screens to be able to get Luka on the guy they wanted, so they could score at will against them. And then we got to see the Jays. You look like the Jays again. 39 for Tatum, 35 for Jalen. So
Mhm.
it was a special game. It was fun. I mean, at the end they kind of made their little run, but that game was never in doubt either. On a back-to-back, yeah, I mean, just it was a feel good win, especially with a couple days off now going into the Miami game on Thursday, which I'll be at.
Yeah, so I mean, the Mavs are like they're such like a fun team to watch, but at the same time they're aggravating because if you're a Mavs fan, you guys can score 140 points a game because Luka and Kyrie are that good, but you're also going to give up 150 points. Luka, as much as he tries to play defense, he's like that meme with like the security card trying to check people. You can tell he plays basketball to score the ball. He wants nothing to do with the defensive end. And Kyrie, he's getting a little bit older. He can still drop 45 on you, but at the same time, he's another one. He's not gonna like lock you down. Like he's not that type of a guy anymore. Like he was in Cleveland. Even if he was that guy in Cleveland, he's not gonna play that much defense. Yeah, I mean the Celtics clearly they cared about that game more, probably because Grant was playing in the game. Grant is, as you see his stat line, he is at the beginning of the season he was balling. He was doing pretty good, but now he's lucky if he sees 15 minutes a night and he shoots like 0 for 4 from 3. I think what do you have? 2 points last night. That's another thing. People were so butthurt that we traded Grant, right? We traded him to Dallas, right? And we got that TPE from him.
Yeah, it was part of the sign and trade. Because at the time that kept us under the second apron by not taking anybody back, because we didn't foresee the Drew trade coming. Now at the time he would have been like, looking retrospectively, it's like, we could have got, instead of the $6 million TPE, we could have gotten a Reggie Bullock back with that. Then that's a piece that, we could have actually used to combine salaries to get a bigger piece of the trade deadline. So, going back, that would have been nice, even if it wasn't, Grant, to just get anybody in that salary range. But I think Grant was better on our team with the role he had versus this one where he's asked to do a lot more, at least at the beginning of the season, and he's not that guy. And then seeing Tatum kind of block him at the buzzer, like swat him like halfway up the first section and kind of like talk shit to him on the way out. Like Grant must be feeling so low right now.
He and Tatum said something to him. I don't know. I can't like read lips that well, so I don't really know what he said. But I mean, Grant didn't even acknowledge it. He knew. He was like, damn, I got nothing on him, and he pretty much didn't do anything the whole game. I think he got like 1 bucket the whole game.
Yeah, it was like a putback. Yeah,
it's sad though because like Grant, he played his role well here, and then he goes to Dallas, and he can't figure it out. But I mean, maybe that's the coaching issue, not being able to use him the right way. But it sucks that he's not doing well there. But the game as a whole, Tatum Brown showing that they're dominant again. Obviously, they cared about this game more, and it shows that they can play, they can do what they got to do. But I want to get into a topic that we discussed before we came on. I want your reaction on it. Embiid scoring 70 points against the one center Spurs and Wembanyama, who's probably $125. People going crazy. Does Embiid scoring 70 against the 6-win Spurs, I believe off the top of my head, mean anything to you?
It doesn't mean as much as when Tatum scored 60 against the Spurs when we were down 32 and came back and he needed all those points to be able to win the game versus Embiid that was in the fourth quarter stat padding up 20 to be able to get to 70. Now, look, I give a lot of shit to Embiid. I can't talk shit about it. I mean, it's impressive what he's able to do. I mean, he's a generational player. I want to come out and say that he's a generational player. But him scoring 70 against the Spurs means nothing when he scores 13 points in an Eastern Conference semifinals game against a 40-year-old Dominican in Boston that he can't ever beat. So, great. I'm glad he did it. I'm sure it meant a lot to him, just like that MVP last year that he was, whining and crying about meant more to him than any playoff wins. Like, I'm sure one day if he has a chance to pass Kobe or ever get to a 100-point game, that'll mean more to him than a championship too, until he eventually asks out of Philadelphia to go be somebody else's Robin. Maybe that's, maybe in a couple years down the road, if a year or two, if Boston doesn't get it done, then, maybe that's the deal for Jalen. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying if to be a Robin to somebody else's Batman, until I see him do this in the playoffs, and obviously I'm not asking him to score 70, but I'm saying in a game 6 or game 7, like a closeout game 6 at your own home, where you don't touch the ball for 4 minutes, like that's on you. Demand the ball. You're the superstar. Like in game 7, scoring less than 20 points where you're just not even in the game. Like you're in the game, but you're just not even there. And you're just getting, sunned by Jason Tatum and the Celtics once again. Like, how many times do we have to see this? Like, cool. I'm glad you got 70 in January against the Spurs. Like, show me in the playoffs.
That's like exactly my mindset. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's impressive. 70 is no joke, no matter against any team that you do it, because everybody, if you're in the NBA, you're a special type of player. But just like, man, he's doing it in January, and then in the playoffs, he'll have a game where he drops like 13, and people are gonna say, man, where was this? Like he can't. It just like when you turn on the playoffs, to my mind, he can be a completely different player. And that's what happens like with a lot of people. I mean, we just saw, I don't mean to cross sports, but we just saw the Chiefs and Bills play. Stephon Diggs, great regular season player, gets in the playoffs. He's not that guy. And I just sometimes with Embiid, I'm sure Philly fans probably feel like the same way. In the regular season, he's a monster. Come the playoffs, maybe he's not, as conditioned, or, the season from dropping, playing 35 minutes a night gets to him in the playoffs. He can't ramp it up, and he can't be the same Embiid that he is in January. But yeah, he's a special talent though. And I'm sure he'll have a couple good games in the playoffs against us if we end up facing them.
At least the Spurs won the game when he got 70, as opposed to Devin Booker when he scored 70 in garbage time against the Celtics, and everyone's huddled around him holding up the 70 thing in a loss.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I should have remembered the 70 when Booker dropped set. Wasn't it? It was on a Sunday too, right? It was like a midday game, 1 p.m.
I just remember, I think it was Chris Broussard said that the reason he didn't vote Avery Bradley Defensive Player of the Year was because Devin Booker dropped 70 on a game where Bradley didn't even play, and the Celtics won. So, I mean, that's our media for you. But
that's crazy. But we have the trade deadline, I believe. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the calendar real fast on the computer. Hopefully it doesn't lock me off.
February 8th.
February 8th. So that's a little bit of over 2.5 weeks. We've already seen, some big moves in Pascal Siakam and Terry Rozier. I think this deadline is going to be hot. Obviously, we're going to have, we haven't really decided yet whether it's going to be like a roundtable type 50-minute type show, or it's going to be, a regular 30, 35-minute, talking about the deadline and what the Celtics could do. We'll probably put together a list of players in each position or realistic targets that the Celtics could do. Right now, in my mind, I'm kind of leaning towards a smaller acquisition versus a sizable addition, just because of our cap situation and whatnot. But I mean, Alex, you in the same boat as that, or are you thinking more on the higher upside?
I mean, it's really challenging for us to make a sizable acquisition. I know me and you send each other things we're playing around with the trade machine. I mean, yeah, I mean, I posted something about DeJounte Murray. Obviously, that's not happening for 7 players. They could get there. It's just like, that's not realistic. What you have to look at is anybody 13 and under. That's the most they can realistically go, and that's including Peyton Pritchard. That's including, Sam Hauser possibly. And then a few of the bottom of the bench guys. So it's really hard. I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to use the grant TPE, someone in the $6 million range, which you can still get Kuminga. You can still get, I believe, Kispert. You can still get Lonnie Walker. So, I mean, there's guys that fit into that. I feel like that's the route they're going to go, to get somebody that will be a playoff rotation player. And then you have to decide, okay, after our top 6, and it depends who goes out on those type of deals, but who do you trust? Do you trust Peyton Pritchard as the point guard off the bench in the playoffs? Do you trust Sam Hauser to make shots in the playoffs? If O'Shea Brissett is still here, do you trust him in a 5-minute span to come in and give energy, grab boards? So it's who do you trust? I'd love to grab another guy that you can trust in the playoffs. So of those guys we mentioned, I mean, even Kuminga, do you trust him in the playoffs?
I mean, it's tough to say, because I don't know. The player that I want, and I've seen him play, I saw him play a couple nights ago against the Lakers, Lonnie Walker. He plays anywhere from 15 to 18 minutes a night, if that, and he puts up 15, 16, 17 points, and he doesn't get utilized enough in Brooklyn. If he gets brought here and he, plays, obviously Pritchard would have to go out, and he's your replacement for Pritchard, I think that is such in my mind, it might be a small acquisition to the NBA world in terms of just Lonnie Walker. He's just a depth piece. He's just a bench point guard. I think I like Pritchard a ton, but I've mentioned it on this show, I think 2 times already, and I'll say it one more time. In the playoffs, can you trust Peyton Pritchard to guard an oversized point guard or someone that's taller than him? I say no. He hasn't really proven that he can play in the playoffs, and I just think when you play an undersized guard like Pritchard, I think that can spell some issues. If you're going to play him 5 minutes at a time, fine, you minimize the damage or whatnot. But I still think it's hard to put Pritchard in a successful position in the playoffs, especially if you're the Celtics. If you're playing against a team like Miami and Jimmy Butler. Now that Terry Rozier's there, I don't know height off the top of my head, but I'm sure Terry Rozier is taller than Peyton Pritchard. I'm just trying to think of matchup-wise. I don't know if I trust Peyton Pritchard to play high-value minutes in a close game or whatnot. You want to put him out in a blowout or whatnot, or if we're down by 15, 20, fine in the playoffs. But I think we need someone with a little bit more size that can play, that can guard, that can, Tatum, you want to go take a seat, Lonnie Walker can get you 10, right? I know Pritchard can get you 10 points, but at the same time, his defense is the reason that I'm skeptical to, play him in high-value minutes. But, do you kind of agree on that? Or are you against that?
I agree. I'd love to get Lonnie Walker in here. Alex Caruso is the goal. That's not going to happen because there will be enough suitors for them. And the Bulls aren't really fully out of this yet. They've had a little turnaround. They're going to move Levine. They should move Levine no matter what the return is.
Lakers.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll get more into this next week, and maybe more moves will happen by then. I think there's going to be a big deadline. I agree on that. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces. Just real quickly before we go, I want to touch on the games that we have coming up this week. We have at Miami on Thursday. We have, I believe, the Clippers on Saturday, and then we play the Pacers after that. So we will get to see Siakam in a Pacers uniform one time for the season. The Clippers, we'll see if we get them at full strength. If we do, that'll be a fun game. And
keep going. You're good.
Then I was going to say, and then we have Miami on Thursday where yours truly will be there. I'll try to get some footage from inside the arena. My first time since the Derek White tip-in there. So I always love going there. It's a fun place to watch a game because half the fans aren't even watching the game. So
so we have so you're right, it's the Heat, Clippers, and then before the Pacers, we play the Pelicans on Monday.
Right.
So we have the Pelicans and Pacers on a back-to-back, the Pacers being the second game of that back-to-back. So, hey, we have some good teams. Heat, Terry Rozier, probably. Wait a minute, is Terry Rozier's first game as a Heat going to be against us? No, it's probably going to be against the Grizzlies on Wednesday, probably, if I had to guess.
Tomorrow, that's if they get all the physicals and medicals in time. He would definitely play against us, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We'll probably see him. No, again, it'd be, all right. Yeah, we'd see him, probably, most likely. And then we see Siakam. Then we see the loaded Clippers who've been playing well. But, yeah, should be a fun week ahead for us. But again, if you guys want to follow us at Dynasty Proud 18 on Twitter, and then also at BSEN_617 as well. Alex, it's been fun. Do you have any last thoughts before we head out?
Season's moving fast. We're 34-10, so that's 44 games, which means we have 38 to go. The trade deadline's coming up. All-Star break's coming up soon. Just to enjoy it. Obviously you want to stay healthy. Just keep racking up those W's. And this really should be, I know, in January, it was supposed to be, now we have the hardest strength of schedule. We have the easiest remaining, and that hasn't happened this month. Once we get past the Lakers in the first, if you want to count that as a hard game on the 1st of February, it lightens up a lot. And once you get to March and April, if we're even in first place when you get to March, then we should win the conference as far as the regular season. So just keep winning games you can, stagger guys as they've been doing to get your rest. I think everybody will play Thursday night, and then throughout the weekend, we'll see if they give, maybe Porzingis a night off. Horford won't play back-to-backs, but yeah, just, looking forward to keeping them going. You're not going to win every single game, but, we go on these streaks where we win, 4 or 5 in a row, drop one, win 4 or 5 in a row, that'll end up, 60 wins plus. So,
yeah, I would also make sure you bubble wrap KP's knee because he's been having some issues, right? He's been having a little bit of knee soreness here and there, right? He was out. I can't remember what game off the top of my head, but I know he was out recently, just as injury management per se. Same thing with Drew Holiday. He's had an elbow issue or something that he's been monitoring. Kind of I have flashbacks of Brogdon when he had that forearm stuff.
I think a lot of this is more load management. I don't think anybody's really that hurt. Obviously, at this point in the season, people are a little banged up, but I think the way they're doing it is, the big games, everybody's playing. So they're staggering guys, load managing a little bit. They're giving Tatum a few days off this year, which they rarely ever do. So, like I said, the goal is at the finish line when you get to the playoffs to have everybody ready to go, ready to play every night. So, you like to win every game, you like to have everybody play every game, but sometimes you got to look at the big picture, and I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will see what they do with the next couple of games. Got some big couple of games coming up. We will have that all for you, I believe, next Tuesday or Wednesday. We will be back with a new episode. But till then, take care, guys.